in the courts, not by you and me.
It's beginning to be, but nothing successfully. It has been challenged far more effectively by various citizens groups. So, for example, Cindy Sheehan is one of the contributors in this book, and she has a website called leavemychildalone.org, leavemychildalone.org. And if you go to that website, very few parents know or are told that they can opt out. Their children can opt out of this information being turned over. But they have to do something proactive to have their information not turned over. And if people go to leavemychildalone.org, they can find out how to get their kids off these recruiters' lists.
If you were devising school curricula, what role would not patriotism, so I don't know that patriotism has a role in it, but what role would knowledge of our history, more importantly, knowledge of our heritage, play as far as you're concerned? Because you're a teacher.
Yeah. I think that it's very important for schools, and especially in history and social studies, but really across the curriculum, to teach students that they have an obligation and a responsibility to understand all the different perspectives around these issues, right? That's what's required of democratic citizens. And the whole idea of politics, I think a lot of this plays off of, politics has become a bad word in our culture, right? If I say, Dick, you're being political, it's like an insult. You're a mudslinging candidate running for office. But politics, there's a great classic book by Bernard Crick called In Defense of Politics. And in it, he argues that politics is the way that people in a democratic society come together to work out their differences and figure out where to go, what to do. It's that kind of politics that I think need to be in the curriculum. In other words, people always say, well, we have to keep politics out of the school. I would say the other thing. We have to bring politics into the school, right? Schools and students need to understand that there are a lot of competing ideas out there, and they need to be educated in them. They need to read voraciously about them. They need to listen to shows like this. They need to know that there are many different opinions around many issues, and that it's their responsibility to learn about those issues and decide where they stand on it and what they want to do about it, not to follow one specific, truth, so-called truth.
And what we called a century ago, in my day, civics?
I think that it is a form of civics. Not that a century ago was all golden years. I mean, there were some of these same issues, but not as bad as it is right now. But civics in the sense that students need to learn that they are a part of making history, that they are a part of something bigger than themselves. That's the kinds of lessons that need to be taught. And let's talk about patriotism for 1 second. Let's say kids are reciting the pledge. Virginia just, the House passed a law 94-3, vote 94-3, that any student who declines to stand up or recite the pledge, teachers and administrators are required to inform the parents. It's like a little tattletale law. Okay. Now, so what do students learn about the pledge? For example, a lot of your viewers probably know that Francis Bellamy wrote the pledge in 1892, I think. It didn't have the word God in it back then. That came much later. But what people probably don't know, and students don't learn, is that Bellamy, first of all, was a Christian socialist. He was very patriotic, but he was highly critical of certain aspects of American life. For example, what he called unrestrained capitalism and growing individualism. He had many of the same concerns we had, that students aren't thinking of anything beyond their blue jeans, or if he had them then, their iPods or their Nike sneakers. And his response to that was, let's create a Pledge of Allegiance that would let students think about these issues. And that's how the pledge developed, right? Now, was Bellamy, patriotic? Of course, but not the kind of patriot that John Ashcroft or Ari Fleischer or Dick Cheney want. A very different kind of patriot, one that's deeply engaged with making our society better and thinking tough questions about where we're going.
A subject to be continued. Thanks so much for joining me today, Joel Westheimer, talking about it today.
Thank you very much, Dick.
And thanks to you in the audience. I hope you join us again here next time. For transcripts, please send $4 in check or money order to the Open Mind, P.O. Box 7977, FDR Station, New York, New York 10150. Meanwhile, as an old friend used to say, good night and good luck.